So, we have three great speakers today. The first one is Adebola Olomo, who will talk about turning generative AI into human-sized narratives. And the second is Etienne. He will talk about outclassing frontier LLMs at extracting information. And the last one, Meryem Arik, will talk about asynchronous agents in production. So, I invite our first speaker to the stage, Adebola Olomo.
Hello, everyone. It's my first time here, but I tried to browse through YouTube to see what some other super folks had spoken about whenever they came through here. And I was like, that's so super technical. So I said to myself that I'll just make sure that today is about Tales by Moonlight. We just tell stories so that way you just let the technical stuff go to the next speaker. And in that light as well, my aim is to try to help you see how your story becomes so important in this age of AI. So important. There's all this trend going on now with people coming up with caricature of themselves and all that. So I did it yesterday. And then I said, give me a caricature of myself based on what you think my job is. As in, I've been talking to you, ChatGPT, for months now. You should know what I do. And then he just came up with some. And I was like, yeah. And it was me. It was the things I do, but it was a white guy. I was like, oh, a white guy? Come on. I'm not telling you enough stories, and I then sent a picture of myself and he brought it back, the exact same thing, but it was me this time, meaning he did get it. What he just didn't have was more context. And it just makes you understand that as AI continues to develop, remember how we used to build websites a few years ago, and you buy a website theme and it has all the lorem ipsum on it. That's the way it is. When you just buy this nice shiny tool, and then they keep saying, we need data. Like, come on, there's data everywhere. It comes in as lorem ipsum. So until you go in there, give you context, give you some understanding, then you start to really, really flesh it out. So today is really about you owning your own story and then making sure that in the age of AI, anything that you write for your brand, for yourself, for your development stuff, for your prompts, it just rings out about you. I studied law in a very cool university in Nigeria. People say it's the best university there. Don't argue with them, it's true. You wouldn't know anyway. But yeah, and when I finished from law school, I really needed to, I just didn't get it. Like, just go to law school. Finish from law, you go to law school. Nigerian parents are almost like, I don't know how many Indians are here, or there's some types of parents, There are only 4 things you can study when you go to school. It's medicine, it's law, it's engineering. Silas was the last one. What? Maps? Mathematics. No, that's part of the old medicine. If you study mathematics, go to medicine. Don't bother going anywhere else, And so there was just nowhere for the soft skills. And if you are in the social classes, then you go to law. So I remember very well that I had 2 courses come up for me. One was international relations and one was law. And then I loved international. I went into the department, I signed up, all of that. And then they just kept calling my name 2 weeks later. Like, why is anyone looking for me? Like, oh, they're looking for you in law. You're in law. I'm like, no, I'm in international relations. I'm not in law. Like, oh, sorry, your dad already mentioned to the dean and they put your name in there. So you need to go. Just like, oh my goodness, this guy. And so that's why I studied law. So when I was done with law, and then in Nigeria, sometimes they just have breaks. They call them breaks, but it's because someone is fighting with someone is not happy with somewhere, with government, so they shut school down. And so I had about a year or 2 before going into law school. After studying law, you go to law school. I had 2 years before going into law school. And so I was just waiting. I was like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? The guys that brought the beans in, I'll be like, oh, do you need an accountant? Do you need someone to take your books? The guys just coming like, just picking up beans. Can you just get off the way? I'm like, what can I talk to? And then one of my friends called me and said, hey, someone is looking for a personal assistant. You might want to go for the interview. I was like, yep, that's the job. I'm going. And so they gave me a date, and I was going into this very beautiful, tall building. And I got to the building, and I was like, okay, why is everyone wearing suits, looking really serious and all? I'm just wearing some nice short skirt. My shoe is a shoe in front, but slippers at the back. I'm just like, what's going on here? And so I went back home. And then at the date table in the evenings, which is a culture of my dad, it was like, so how was your day? I went for this interview, but I didn't really go in. Like, why? I was like, because it looked too serious. Okay, I'll go with you tomorrow. So my dad left his work, he went with me the next day. Once I got into the interview space, he left. But I remember very well looking at the guy that was interviewing me and seeing in his very big screen something I said, oh, do you collect paintings? I was like, no, that's a website. I was like, oh, that's a website. Okay, so how do you build this? And then he started to tell me, yada, 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 yada. And so I started to become his PA, but I was more interested in what they were doing at the back office where they were building the websites. So remember, I was there for 2 years before going to law school. By the time I was going to law school in 2 years, I was already head of the business, meaning I won most of the deals for the business when it came to websites. Some of them being some of the big telco companies some people might know called MTN. So by the time I was done with that, I went to law school. And then when I was done with law school, MTN, this big telco company, was already looking for me. And they said, hey, we love the way you made us enjoy building our website. Do you want to come work for us? Like, yeah, what job do you have? We want to get everyone within the organization to love to use a tool called SharePoint. I was like, SharePoint? Okay, cool. I didn't know what it was. So I was like, yeah, if it's technology, I can make them love it. Let's bring it on. Let's do it. I got the role. And then the first week, I'm like, this is SharePoint? This is tough. I don't like this SharePoint. How do I get people to enjoy to use SharePoint? I don't know how SharePoint became a thing, and it's still until today. But every time I have the opportunity, I'm always saying, Microsoft, what were you thinking? Well, we had to do that. I was like, at a point, I just said to them, what is one use case we're trying to solve with this task you've given me? And then they explained to me what they wanted me to do with HR. I said, okay. So remember the first place I worked? There were some young boys there. So I just got them. We're almost like Maverick at night. When everybody was going home, the boys came in the evening and they built this whole enterprise out. I was like, thank you. So when the company saw it, they thought it was SharePoint at first. I was like, no, we built it from scratch. And they're like, oh my goodness, we already asked PwC to give us a quote for this. And the numbers were so high was why we dropped it. You guys have just built it? Yes. So I became a superstar. And with that, they moved me to a country called South Africa to work from the group office there in Johannesburg, and said, what you've done in Nigeria, please duplicate it across all the countries that MTN was in. So that helped me to visit as many countries as you can imagine, including some interesting places like Yemen and Afghanistan. And it just helped to just see how really do you get people to love and enjoy to use technology. And that all happened, and my story goes on and on. Now, fast forward down there, worked in few places, then I started my own agency. And when I started, I was really, really balling. People already knew me, so I knew exactly what to do. I started to hire people. I remember the first 2 people I hired, because I resigned from my job and just went home and told my husband I'm resigning. And he's like, you can't just resign. I'm like, I think I can just resign. Let me just try. And then I hired 2 people. And he said, why are you putting people in my living room? I said, because when I wake up and I see them, I'll remember I have to pay them salaries at the end of the month. So that way, I don't just give up on this job. And he was like, okay. And so I paid them. And then I started this thing. After doing this, I'm becoming quite successful. I had a great office, had some big, good clients. This time, it was the husband that came. And he said, hey, guess what? I got a job. I was like, yay, you got a job. Where? I didn't know you had your job. I was like, no, it's the same job, but now I'm moving to Dublin. I was like, wow. Remember when I went to Johannesburg, you didn't come with me. So you need to go to Dublin on your own. I've never heard of the place before. I don't know what they do there. I just know we go. And he was like, no, it's a cool place. In fact, one of the judges is on American Idol or something. I was like, really? So then we started to think about it. And I said, I'm not going to Dublin. I'm doing well here. You go, I'll be fine. But the deal breaker this time was the fact that we had a daughter. So I had to make a move. And then we came to Dublin. But before we came to Dublin, I remember so well asking him for a meeting with his manager. I need to talk to your manager. He was going to work with the same company, was in Dow Citibank, and so he was just moving into city in Dublin. So I said, can I talk to your manager, please? And then I spoke to the manager and I said, are there jobs for people like me in tech in Dublin? He said, oh, everybody's in Dublin. All the big four, everybody, and they keep looking for people like you. When you come in, you're gonna get a job. I was like, okay, I didn't know that there was a place where, it was just all free for all. They're just looking for people with jobs. And then I went into that country, and the first week I said to myself, I'm just gonna give it a break. I'm not gonna look for a job on time, so people just can chill. I'll get into the market very soon, but for now, I just wanted to just know this place. And after a month, I put my CV together, and then I sent it out there. Crickets. It's okay to laugh at me. I'm serious, it was crickets. No response. I was like, oh, maybe because I sent it to only 10. Let me start again. And the volume grew. And then I would get one response at a time, and one time he said, we love your experience, but you have no local experience. And before I knew it, I started hearing that word, no local experience, no local experience. And then someone would say, oh, your CV is 3 pages long, make it 1 page. You make it 1 page, and they would say, oh, it's too scanty, they don't really know that you make it 5 pages. Like, it was a mess. I'm sure many of you have gone through this one time or the other. And then after doing all that, I just started, the company I was running in Nigeria just continued. I just created one in Dublin. I just started to build logos and do whatever it was that was available. And then a friend came to me one day. This was in the third year of being in Dublin with no job. She came to me and then she said, hey, I'm going for my master's. And it clicked. I said, I've always done law, but I've always worked in marketing. So maybe I can do my master's in marketing. And maybe there I could find local experience. And then I went for my master's. Evening classes, that's always a good hack. Because all the guys that are working right there in the classroom were 12 of them. And I remember even going into that school, that particular school, they asked me to come in for an interview. So I said to my husband, I got an interview. He was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, for the course. He was like, well, we're still going to pay. I was like, yeah, but you need to get in, I said, okay. So I went for the interview. And then when I got in, I was like, yeah, I got in. And then the first night, everyone was like, the first night before the main classes, everybody just comes together, have drinks. I was asking the class guys, how was your interview? Was it pressure? Like, no, we didn't do an interview. And I asked the person, did you have an interview? No. Did you have an interview? No. The only black girl in the class was the one that was called for an interview. Okay, I got the point at that point. I wasn't taking it personal. I'm here now. I'm going to be in this class. The 12 of us, the only girl, only black girl, marketing class, all the guys in there, running things in their companies. So that became my local experience. They would share examples from their classes, from their work. They would share numbers, they would share places, and I learned a lot from them. So sometimes those learnings are good, because you do get some things out of that. And then when I left that job, that happened to be the reason why I had my first referral and my first job. Because one of those classmates got a job in a new place. He asked me to go, get anything in there for you can refer me. He did. And that was my first job, which was at HubSpot. And when I got into HubSpot, it was for a job that was customer experience. I remember so well that the job I saw online was replatforming or whatever it was technical. I was like, oh, I build websites. So they'd be like, oh, what's Java? I'd be like, oh, it's PHP. I'll put all the techy things in there. They would get confused. By the time I was done with the 7-place interview, they came back and said I didn't get the job. But they said, hey, we love the way you looked at marketing and strategy, and we have another job for you. And that's how I got that job. So when I got into that job, the 3rd month I asked them, when can I move to marketing? And the guy looked at me and said, are you mad? You just got here 2 days ago. Oh, you've not even done a year and a half. You already want to move. So that's when I also knew it was going to be tough to just move. I said to my manager, I said, when can I move? She was just like, Adebola, you just have to chill about this. You just da-da-da-da. Okay. And then she now became very, I don't know. So every time we go for our one-on-one meetings, I would speak to her. And I just noticed that she wasn't just listening. She was just in a hurry. So that was how I started my journey with LinkedIn. Because every time I had my one-on-one with my manager, since she won't listen, I would go to LinkedIn and I would put my feedback there. And then with time, she asked me, do you have any feedback for me? I was like, no, I'm okay. I don't want to read it on LinkedIn, Adebola. I'm like, oh, do you see it? And that's how LinkedIn started for me. And I just started to understand that when you put your story in there, someone is reading it, someone understands it, and it also was a place of expression for me. Long story short, I understood exactly what to do within that place. I went into Slack. I became the person in Slack for every product marketer that needed to understand what customer experience was doing. They wanted to know what customer stories were, I gave it to them. So when a job opened up in product marketing, guess who got it? In 9 months, breaking that record, I was out of there and I was in product marketing. And it was product marketing for technology, which I really always loved and enjoyed. So one day I was in that job and our co-founder, his name is Dameshar, was meant to have a meeting with me on how we're thinking CTOs were buying HubSpot. And in that meeting, he said something. He said, Adebola, people are talking about algorithm now being so crazy because of like YouTube Shorts and the likes. He said, in a few months, people are going to be talking about this thing called generative AI. And I said, okay. And he continued talking. At that point, I'd already zoned out. I left that meeting and I went quickly to Google and I said, what is AI doing in marketing? Any courses? And I saw one course only on Coursera from University of Virginia on AI and marketing, and I took that course. So when I took that course, I got the certificate, I plastered it all over LinkedIn, and I started talking about AI in marketing. You want a prof in AI marketing? AI marketing examples they taught us during that course, it was me. I was all over the place. And then I got a call from Women in AI. And they said, we love the way you tell the stories about AI because we are just professors, we are researchers, we're so techy, but you can bring that other angle to it. And that's how they made me the head of communications for Women in AI in Ireland. And I started to do all that and talk about it. And every time they had an opportunity for someone to speak about AI and gender, what do you think they go to? The head of communications. She can tell the stories. So I got to travel to as many countries in Europe as possible. More than that, I became a lecturer in Ireland, teaching in some of the top universities. UCD, I taught AI and gender. In the school I went to for masters, I was teaching AI and marketing. In another school in Trinity, I taught AI and international marketing. That's how the trajectory of my journey has gone, because I just didn't say no. If you say no, I found a way around it. And so in a year and a half, I became the ambassador for Women in AI in Ireland, and I was leading that, the European Union, going into consultative conversations, and it broadened me. By that time, I'd left HubSpot, and then I started to work with some guys, but long gone. Today, I run a team of AI engineers building AI infrastructure for companies across continents. Our first client was in the USA, now in Nigeria, now in Europe, and we're growing the team exponentially because I just refused my story to be just like any other black woman that came into a country with a husband who was so tough. I'm sorry, I forgot to wear my ring today. My husband is still alive, is well. And if the annoying reason, okay, not annoying, don't let me bust him out here, why we now live in London. We moved here about a year ago because I decided to leave city and move with Barclays. So there we go again. But this time, I didn't fight him because, hey, I've got my own gig. If you like, go to the other part of the world. I'm okay. Just find me a nice place to sit and be and pay my monthly bills so that I don't have to spend a kobo of my money. But that's the way that my story has come through and continues to expand, continues to grow. And it helps you understand that when you then start to see how your own story builds, and I'm sure many of you start to think about, see our journey and see how she's come to where she is today. I imagine my own journey and how I am where I am today. Let that become the trigger when next you write a prompt, when next you write a story, when next you write your LinkedIn post. So what I'm just trying to say is always make sure that you give your AI tool your own memory, because it's got no memory. It's got the last person that gave its memory. It's got whoever it is that is so loud on every platform's memory, but does he have your own memory? And I become so passionate about this when I talk about women as well, because the library is filling up, but how many of them have female perspective in it? It's not because women are not there. It's because women just like to, some of us just like to take a chill pill. You know, people are looking for folks on the panel. A guy's hand is up already. A woman is wondering, I don't know it 100%. Do I really need to put my hand up? And so you have a lot of guys just coming up with their PhD, PPHD, LLM, PPROP, but they have all the alphabets on the planet right after their names. Come on, guys, we get it. You know? But that's the thing with women. We need to be bolder as well, because our girls need people who can show to them when they do a search online to say, who is a business owner? Who is a leader in tech? We want some women to come up as well in those caricatures. And that's why it becomes important that not only do we need guys to be allies, we need women as well to put that hand up and say, hey, I'll do it, you know, I'll fix it, I'll get in there and I'll make it happen. So when next you're writing anything, try this very much. The lens. What's the lens? What's the voice? And what do I want people to get out of this? What's the lens? The lens will always be your perspective. No two people can tell it the way you tell it. No two people lived in your particular house, had your particular sister, brother, cousin, mom, had your particular street name. No two people, you're that unique. So whenever you try to write anything, anchor your story so that it's not generic at all. Make sure you try to slice it up to say, what's the story here? You're trying to write something for work and you're saying, when I was in the meeting, what was one unique thing that happened that stuck with me? When you put the perspective in when you're writing that email, your manager gets it or your colleague gets it, and be like, oh, you're really listening. Or they themselves, they'll be like, that person is deep. So that's why people say, oh, I see a lot of posts, they look the same, I know it's AI. But when you put that whole slice of your story, your perspective, what you felt, it could be anything at all. That just changes everything. And I'm saying as well that when we start to sell as business owners as well, start to think about it and say, we're now in the marketing world of micro content. We don't need to send the same email to every type of person. The CFO gets the same, CPO gets the same, CEO gets the same. Come on, now we have ChatGPT, we have all the forms of Copilot, whatever it is. Try and ask it, give me a bite that only the finance person will appreciate. And then that content goes to that person. You can start to micro-bite the things you say, not just trying to sell something and then you send one email to everybody. That world is passed on now. Everyone just seems to believe in, who are you? How do you sound? When they see something that you do and how it sounds, you should amplify the kind of personality that you have. And remember as well, something I like to say as well whenever I try to talk about this is, your story comes from continuously experiencing things. Travel. Come to spaces like this, which is great that you have. Read a book. Talk to someone you've never spoken to before. You come to events like this, you speak to the same person you're at home with, the same person you're at work with. What is the difference? How do you expand your story? It's like a bank, you get what I mean? And that bank is what differentiates your colleague from you, the depth of your bank. So when next you're trying to tell something or do something or just experience life, because whatever you experience in life is what you bring into the bank and to your story that continues to make you unique in the world of AI. We'll continue to talk about AI for as much as possible, but the differentiator would always be who is able to learn, own, and really just own their own stories. Because facts we tell, but stories, that's what people remember, you know, and that's the way that when they remember, that's what builds trust when they do business with you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I'm very happy to be here. And thanks for the organizers to invite me. So my name is Etienne. I'm co-founder and CEO of NuMind. And we are a startup. In a sense, we are an LLM provider, a bit like OpenAI or Anthropic, although we're a bit smaller at the moment. And our particularity is that we are specialized in information extraction from documents, which means that we create LLMs that are specialists at extracting information from documents. And of course, the point of doing that is that these specialized LLMs are better than generalist LLMs at this task, as the title indicates. So to start, what do I mean by the way, you're going to be spoiled a little bit. There's always a title of the next slide. But anyway, it's resolution of this screen, I think. We cannot do otherwise. So what do I mean by extracting information? There's kind of two tasks. I mean, at least we separate it into two tasks. One is extracting structured information. And I'm going to talk a lot about that in this first part. And another one is extracting the entire content that we call content extraction, which is more akin to OCR for images. So first, structured extraction or structured data extraction. The point is to extract, I don't think oh, no, it works, it's back, okay. I think it's the wire that I'm touching here. Okay, so the point is to extract a JSON from a document, which can be an image, like in this example. It can be a PDF, or it can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be text, an email, that doesn't matter. And extracting this information according to a specific structure. We call it a template, but it's like a schema of an API. And for example, you would ask, well, I want to extract the last name, I want to extract the first names, document number, I want to do a classification, male, female, other, I want to extract the dates, things like this. And then this is used to fill up a database and to enter the workflow of the company. So typically it might be, a bank or an insurance company or an hospital or, or in the logistics, there's several industries, and they have incoming document and they need to do this data entry. So historically it's by hand, it's people in front of the computer that are, the pay stub, the invoices and so on, they're filling it up by hand. And that's what this thing automatizes. So it's automated data entry, this task. And okay, we're gonna have a little bit of a drop sometimes. I don't know where the false contact is. Yeah, as I was saying, there's many industries. It's a bit everywhere. I must say the biggest one, for example, the biggest one for us, it's banking, it's insurance, logistical as well, and healthcare. That's kind of the big four, I would say. At least that's. We know that sometimes there's some industry that are a bit, that will come a bit later. Like, I think healthcare is a bit behind the last three because maybe they want to innovate a bit less. I mean, it's important stuff, so they want to make sure the technology is very ready to use kind of these new technologies. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the solution. So really, what's happening right now, if you go in a bank, an insurance company, like this sort of companies, the way they do information extraction, this structured extraction, is via classic OCR methods like Tesseract and things like that, these deterministic systems that really recognize the characters. And then you have some handwritten rules, some classic programming for very specific use case. They might have a specific pipeline for ID cards of this country, and even this version of the ID card of this country. And of course, you find also machine learning models that are trained for very specific use case. They're generally tiny models that work well when it's a tiny use case. If it's ID card of such country, no problem. But they take time to create. You need data scientists, you need a team to assemble data, to train the model, to put it into production, and so on. And typically it's 6 months to 1 year project to have something that works for a very particular use case of extraction. And then, of course, you have humans, which are heavily used still because you might not want to, spend 1 year for every use case you might have for extraction. And this is like humans that do data entry, either in the company, internal, or via BPO, in country where labor is a bit cheaper. So yeah, that's the workhorse of information extraction at the moment. And then you might say, yeah, but I mean, something has been happening the last few years. Now we have ChatGPT, we can do, and many other LLMs that can do impressive things. They can code, they can write, things, and so maybe we should just ask this AI to do it. And you've been spoiled, but LLMs are not yet perfect. Which is a bit surprising, because information extraction doesn't seem like a complex task. It seems easier than coding. But the fact is, they are not that good. And this is a list of the typical shortcomings. When you have complex layouts, such as tables or several tables, or a table that is cut, you know, beginning on one page and then next on the other page, and you don't have the headers that are repeated, LLMs often break down, even the best one, even the biggest of the biggest provider. You know, if you have two tables next to each other, they might think a line, it's the same line of the same table. Actually, no, it's two tables with different things, and things like that. Actually, complex layout is often catastrophic failure. But anyway, long documents also, when they go too long. I mean, we all know it's not specific to information extraction. When you have long context, they tend to be less performing, but that happens here as well. And writing, of course. These humans are still in the lead for handwriting, for sure. When you have long extraction list, okay, that's super simple case. You go to the Wikipedia page of the list of the largest cities in the world, and you ask an LLM, any LLM, extract all the cities in this page. Absolutely all of them, even the footnotes and so on. And even the best LLM, they miss 20 of them out of 130. So they're like 85% correct, which is surprising. It's a simple task. But that's the way it is. And okay, checkboxes on forms, when you have texts that are sideways, you know. So yeah, it's not perfect. And not being perfect is okay, but the problem is it cannot tell you when they are confident or not about what they produced. And this is a problem because you cannot have, I mean, it's difficult to have a human in the loop that can quickly correct what an LLM already did. And because of this, the pattern that we see is that this group, you know, insurance, banking, and so on, they try LLMs, they do, you know, little POCs, and they're like, hey, it's not there yet. It's not there yet. We stick to our old way of doing it. And us, we think there's a solution to switch to this new technology, which is task-specific large language models. And this is a bit of a diagram of how we create. It's a bit simplified, but you know, I don't put the post-training with reinforcement learning and so on, but you know, that's the basics. What you do is that you start with a generalist LLM, okay? And then you train it, you continue its training, you fine-tune it with a data set that is, you know, that shows examples of this task, which is a structured extraction task in that case. So typically you might want something like 1 million extractions. So a bunch of extraction problems, like you put CV and we want to ask this on this CV and that's the result, and we put invoice and we want to ask this and that's the result. And you do that for as high diversity of documents as you can. And then you train the model, and you have your specialized model that then is very good at extracting information from any kind of document. So it's a specialized in extraction, but generalist in the domain, the kind of problems you might throw at it. Yeah, specialized but general in a sense. But of course the question is how you construct this magical data set, right? That's not easy at all. And for this, historically the first model that we call NuExtract, by the way, NuExtract 1 was very close to distillation. You know, like we took the biggest LLM we had at the time, and we made it. We created a corpus from you know, from Common Crawl, and we made the LLM generate templates. So what could we extract from such documents? And then we made the LLM actually extract the information, and that was our data set. Over the time, it changed a lot. Now it's not distillation anymore. There's still a part where we take real data. You need real data to you know, capture the reality, the complexity of the real world. And then you manage to annotate, but you know, you can do several pass, you can do filters, you can iteratively correct the results. So there are ways to have a data set that is much better than the best LLM out there. Also, what you can do is you can make the task more complex after. You take an LLM that is not necessarily the best, and actually now we don't even use the best LLM. You can use open source LLM that are not the best, and you extract information from the document, and then you complexify the task by reducing the resolution of the document, by making rotate, by doing some transformation like this, or by taking two documents and putting them together, because it's harder to extract from two documents than from one. So you can artificially make the task harder to get a set that is difficult for to really improve. And you can also create fully synthetic documents. And it's pretty easy to make very hard fully synthetic. You cannot have high diversity with synthetic document. It's very hard to have diverse. The real world is top diversity. But you can make tasks that are very hard. You just put the characters very small. You just you can do a lot of things to make a hard document. And maybe I say too much. Some of it should stay secret, but that's kind of what it is nowadays. It's a mix of real-world data and synthetic data to create this data set. Okay, and you might ask does it work? And the answer is yes. This was a benchmark of 7 months ago, which is very old by today's standards. So you might see that the models we compare are kind of the old generation, but that's what we obtained with NuExtract 2.0 Pro. That's, by the way, the way we work is the Pro version, our proprietary model, and then we have the smaller ones that are open source, all MIT licensed. You can use them as much as you want, that are distributed on Hugging Face. And yeah, it turns out that this model is much better than the generalist. These are the non-reasoning model, by the way. These are the ones that just spit out the answer straight away. Same as our model. That's why we compare to them. When we compare to reasoning model that cost 10 times more because it's a massive thinking trace, we got similar results. We're still a bit better actually, but clearly reasoning helped for that. And yeah, so it's better, but it's also smaller. This model is, we don't know the size of these guys, but about 50 times smaller than these guys. And so that's nice because then you can deploy it privately. And by the way, that's our business. We have, I'll show you our platform. We have a SaaS platform people can extract, but many of these companies that I mentioned, bank, insurance, and so on, they want private usage because confidentiality of the data, of the documents. And so we made a model that fits on one GPU, so we can deploy it easily. That's the whole point. And yeah, actually, okay, that's what I talk here. So that's NuExtract 2.0 generation. By the way, we have a 3.0 that is coming in the following weeks. And these are the open source ones. That's a Pro one, and that's the kind of GPU you need. So L40S, or A100 or H100 is completely enough to run it, whereas this guy requires a lot. And of course, energy consumption is a massive difference as well. Although not as big as the size because they're pretty good at doing mixture of experts. So it needs a lot of GPU, but to run it's a bit cheaper. And we are going there as well, actually. And yeah, and so we created the NuExtract platform that we released 7 months ago, at the same time as NuExtract 2.0, that I could show you a little bit. And let's take a simple use case of ID card because it's simple, even though there's nothing so impressive about this one. Let's duplicate it. These are the reference project. You can see a little bit what we can do. So yeah, you define a template. I can modify it. I can, basically, yeah. You can have optional instruction. We added that last week. This is sometimes people, they wanted to define, well, the first names, be careful. What I mean by first name is this. When there's a composed name, actually separate them. You can give a bit of extra instructions. But the core is this template. You have types as well. That's an interesting one. Verbatim string means that the model should do a pure extraction. The model should copy-paste from the document. It should not reformulate, it should not reformat, which helps to reduce hallucinations. And then you have other ones like date time, which is ISO standard, here you have a classification. Actually, I mentioned that before. And this string, because it's the ISO code of the country, so of course it's not written verbatim in your document, so you allow the LLM to generate it. And yeah, okay, let's launch it. I'm gonna launch. So this is a very clean ID. There's really no problem with this stuff. But even when things are not as clean, or things with shade and so on, that's where these LLMs shine, by the way. And that's where more traditional pipelines have issues. You can have occlusion, you can have different lighting and so on, and it's pretty resistant to this stuff. And I mean, there are more details, like you can put examples. So I could say, actually, this guy, I'm not so happy with the extraction. I wanted Maëlys and Gaël to be two separate for some reason. And so here I corrected it, and I put it in these examples. And the LLM used that as examples, like a bit like traditional machine learning, to improve its extraction. It's actually using in-context learning. It's putting the example in the prompt of the LLM. And then when you're happy, you have an API. And so you can, it's an asynchronous API. You send a file, you create jobs, you can pull them, and yeah, that's how it works to use it. Okay, and I guess I'll talk about that after. So yeah, that's basically for the structured extraction and for the platform. And yeah, as I was saying here, we deploy this platform privately at companies. That's mostly, that's our main business. Although we hope that the SaaS will become our main business as well. It's always nice to have a SaaS that works well. But it's a lot of enterprise AI at the moment. And yeah, so second task, content extraction. This is not the task that we are historically in. But we saw there was a lot of demand. Like, the open source models, for example, until very recently, we were the only one for the last almost 2 years with models that are specialized in structured extraction. But there's been a lot of OCR model out there. And we're like, well, maybe we can use our expertise to do an OCR model as well. And so we wanted to do something a bit different. So by the way, first I define the task. So the task is to extract the entirety of the document. There's no template. It's super easy to use. Actually, that's why these models are so popular. You just give the document, and that's it. There's no input except the document. And it provides a text-based output, like Markdown. Markdown is good, but there's other formats you could have as well. And by the way, the need for this is for a RAG application. Basically, when you create a local ChatGPT of an enterprise, you need to process all the documents into some common formats so that then you can do some search over this document. You can do some semantic search, of course, by chunking and embedding all the chunks and so on, and then provide the result of the search to the LLM. So it's a pre-digestion in a sense for LLMs. Yeah, and so yeah, we thought, what can we do about that? And so we noticed that these OCR models had a lot of trouble, and even the biggest model out there, with complex layouts. The one I mentioned before, when you have tables, when you have several tables, like catastrophic crashes. And so we realized that in order to improve for this kind of documents, and actually I'm going to start that already, because, oh dear, okay. Okay, maybe the demo is going to be for next time. I don't know how to restart it. I wish I had one of the machine learning engineer here. Okay, anyway, maybe I will. Okay, I don't think I'm going to show the demo, but basically what we realized is that what needed to happen was for the model to do reasoning before, to have some thinking trace before actually answering, and not any reasoning, a reasoning that is targeted for extracting information, like thinking about the layout, thinking like, what do I see in this document? Oh, there's 3 tables. Okay, and what are the headers? Oh, is that? What should I be careful of? I should be careful of this column that splits, of this line that is, So, and that's what we did. And we created the model NuMarkdown. And it turned out it was a massive success 3-4 months ago. And it got a bit forgotten, and now it's again a massive success. We had 1 million downloads last month. And we got #1 in OCR models for like more than a month, and we've just been dethroned, and we are #2, which was completely surprising to us, because honestly, it's experimental, and like these guys, they train on maybe, okay, I'm gonna say 10, but it's probably 100 times more compute. Actually, we know, yeah, the Lighton one was like on 100 times more compute than us. But anyway, so it was pretty popular, and I'm gonna show you what it does. Yeah, so it's, it's documents like this, like you have a table that is cut, the headers is there, or you have, this takes 3 lines, right? On the columns, this takes the full column. So it might believe that this actually belongs to the next column. This sort of thing that throw off the LLMs. And so our model has this thinking phase. Analyze the overall document structure. Document consists of 2 main sections, containing a header, blah, 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 blah. It goes from the general to the specific. And it's pretty concise. Like if you ask, GPT, Claude, Gemini, to extract information from documents with the reasoning, it's going to go in all over direction. It's going to write pages and pages and pages and pages. So it's pretty concise. Doesn't take too long. Actually, it's as big as you see, as big as the output. And then it outputs the markdown. And it works pretty well for this kind of documents. At the time, we were beating all the specialists, GPT-4o at the time. And Gemini Flash was like competing, actually, yeah, is a bit better. Gemini Flash is a bit better. But like it's yeah, pretty close. And this was an experimental model, and now we are in the last stage of doing our, let's say, production model, like a pro model, and we are going to release it on the platform. So we hope that in a few weeks we'll have like a really good OCR model as well as a good structured extraction model. Yeah, and so yeah, we call it NuMarkdown, and maybe to finish a bit on the roadmap, we actually decided to merge the structured extraction and the content extraction in the same model. It simplifies everything. Actually, we realized that the tasks helped each other out, so because they're so similar about the understanding of the document. And so yeah, we're on the last stage for NuExtract 3. Which is going to have reasoning, instructions, you already saw it. Actually, what's running on the SaaS is an early version of NuExtract 3. So, it's not finished, but it was already much better than the 2.0, so we put it up. So yeah, merge with NuMarkdown, okay, new types. And actually, no uncertainty, I made a mistake. This is, I mean, there's already, NuExtract already has a way to assess if it's confident about the entire document, about the entire extraction. But we want to go further and have NuExtract says, this value, I'm sure, this one I'm sure, this one I'm certain, this one I'm not sure, and so on, like value by value. And that's what's going to be NuExtract 3.0, along with handling documents that are arbitrarily long with a sliding window. And actually, we might do something else, but yeah. And localization, also that the model tells where in the document, what kind of, information it got to be able to answer, like where in the document is this information, basically, which is asked a lot by our customer for human in the loop, both uncertainty and localization. Although our philosophy, I mean, we are doing this, but we hope that the model at some point is so good that, there's no need for a human in the loop. And actually, that's the goal of NuExtract 4. NuExtract 4, we estimate in 8 months, and it's going to be something that has, agentic extraction process where if the model isn't sure, It can, maybe it can think more, of course, but it can also zoom on a document, it can do some rotation, it can do, call some tools, possibly some other kind of tools, we are thinking about that. And so yeah, it's heavily related to tool use. And we believe that this thing that will reach what we call, a bit as a joke internally, AGE, Artificial General Extraction. And so, yeah, we believe that it's with this sort of thing that we will reach AGE, and our goal is to do that this year. And because, I mean, we saw business-wise, if you have a model that you don't need to do customization, you don't need to fine-tune and so on, you just tell it what to extract, maybe a few instructions, like template, few instructions, maybe one example or two, and it does it as good as a human. So that's our goal. All right, thank you very much. And I would love to answer some questions.
Thank you so much. Really nice talk. Hopefully your new extract 3 doesn't get easily deflown from the leaderboard. All roads to that. This is probably like an edge case question. The training data sets that you mentioned, I'm assuming like handwriting is probably the most hard to train your models on. So like, what sort of representative data sets do you use? Because I'm thinking like, let's say if it's like a doctor's receipt, or if it's like a raw like VAT receipts, some people write on paper, and then to combine that with the intersectionality of multilingual, a lot of languages, a lot of dialects. So how do you firstly optimize for that? And any industry that you go to or any clients, can they upload their own customized training sets to train your model?
Okay. I like this question. Yeah, so handwriting is a very hard thing. It's not where there's the most demand, however. It's not that common in writing, although it happens, of course, in forms and so on. But what you can do to create data set is to is to make it harder in a document after the fact. Like if you take a reasonably good handwriting, you make it extract automatically by some system, and then you can do some deformations, the contrasts, things like that. And that's a way to create a data set that is quite hard to train, and so there's something to learn to the model. Because if it's too easy, there's not much to learn, So yeah, that will be for the first question. And wait, what was the second question? Was
can clients upload their custom?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So because we are not AGE yet, that's what we do with our customers often. But it's not like before, where you do one fine-tuned model for every task, and the model does only this. We keep the generality of the model. So we have a new extract, and we gather data from variety of use cases from the company, and we train on this use case, and we also inject some of our data to make sure it keeps generality. So it's like a new extract for such and such, we like to give them little names, so it becomes kind of the model of the company. And it's pretty nice because they can still, use it, for everything, But it's a bit of a hassle, of course, compared to just having a model out of the box that just works. So that's our goal.
Thank you for sharing. I have two questions. The first would be, why do you choose to focus on the problem of extraction in the first place? And then the second question would be, how would you define success for 2026?
Oh yeah, we chose it a bit because, I've been doing NLP for, 12, 13, 14 years. So I'm biased toward extraction because the only thing that was possible at the time, right? And so when we started NuMind, we didn't intend to be LLM providers. We thought there's plenty of great open source LLM out there. We're just going to build a tool to use these LLMs. And at the time, it was before ChatGPT and so on. We were like, well, classification, entity recognition are kind of the natural tasks that we can solve now. That's why we focused on that. And then many things happened. I mean, ChatGPT, of course, happened. But also we realized that the model were not so good open source, so we started making them, and we saw they were very popular. And we're like, okay, we need to change. So we actually pivoted about a year ago. And we ditched our previous, it was a desktop app for data scientists to build a model on the, with small models like BERT type model. So yeah, that's a story of why we went there. I mean, we thought a lot, like, should we go into this, of course, RAG application and all this new kind of application that were opening up by this new technology. But in the end, we're very expert in extraction, and we're like, okay, let's focus on our expertise and use this new technology with our expertise. Right. That was a bit the idea. And second question was?
How would you define success in 2020?
Oh yeah, I mean, AGE, the Series A, some big customers. We start signing our first big customers. We are very happy, and I mean, we finally see that it's catching on. So the pivot was not was a good pivot to do.
Can I ask one more question, if possible?
Yeah.
Where is your company in its maturity at the moment?
Yeah. So I mean, we did a seed quite some time ago. We've been very frugal. We didn't I mean, even though we had 10 people kind of. Yeah, so we're still in our seed, and and so that's why it's going to be like, hopefully a Series A this year. That's a goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I yell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Repeat the question maybe.
Oh, good. Thanks for the talk so far. So I run the agentic AI team for a big insurance company. So
Okay.
this is, well, document extraction is an important capability for us, but it's also a very crowded area. So lots of startups in this space, and even the big providers like Microsoft, for example, provides an Argus package which combines the OCR with the LLM reasoning side. So I guess the question for you is, what is your biggest differentiator, and what do you think you need to crack to be able to get into big enterprises?
Yeah. The biggest differentiator is our model that is specialized, and generally the solution use generalist model to do this. Although I think they might switch at some point, but at the moment that's our biggest strength, to have a model that is both better than generalist and also smaller, and so we can have running costs that are lower for these companies. And also this possibility to do this we're talking about this model that is with the data of the company. That's also a good thing, because the big one, they might be reluctant to do this and just have the out-of-the-box solution. And grabbing this last percentage, going from, as going from 90 to 95 or to 99 is very valuable. So yeah, that's our biggest thing. And of course, also there's some geopolitical thing, we are, like in Europe, we are an European company, so this kind of help as well, compared to the big guys, where they say, oh, where is my data going? Are you sure that, with us, it's all private, they know that, yeah, there's no funny business. And by the way, we've seen that we won against proof concept, and we're against the big ones, and we won in the end, so it makes us pretty hopeful that it will continue.
Great talk, and just curious, what do you see most people doing for the OCR task for documents that have both a lot of text but also images that are really important for their downstream tasks, like schemas or maps or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, okay, maps is a difficult one. What we do at the moment with the new Markdown is that we describe the image as best as we can, put a lot of information, yeah. And if it's a plot, we extract the value, basically transform plot into tables to get the value. Now, when it's complex, sometimes, diagram, like simple workflow, you can actually put it in bullet points, you know, if this happens, you go there, if that. So you can translate it, but there is a limit. At some point, you have a diagram that is too complex, you cannot translate it into text. And for that, we don't have a solution really at the moment. So it will be by probably using more expressive format for representing these things. Yeah, I guess, what we do already for tables, we switched from pure markdown tables to HTML because it's a bit more expressive, and LLMs understand it pretty good as well. Yeah, so I think it will go to a more expressive, which is a bit less nice to handle, because when it's pure text, it's easy to handle, but you have to find a balance between expressivity and ease of use after. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes. Speak loud, speak loud.
So, how do you process the EU processing and then the GDPR thing? Like, is that sorted out for the company right now?
Yeah, it's because it's private instance. This solves a lot of issues. The second thing that solves issues is that it's an extracting solution. It's not like a chat, you know, solution and so this also removes a lot of problem. Like, we're not in the high risk category typically, depending on legislation, but in EU we're not high risk. Yeah, and then there's a bunch of things to be compliant.
Like the SOC 2 compliance, like, are you guys working on it, or is like, have you achieved that?
Yeah, I mean we are compliant. You know, they typically send you a lot of questionnaires, and so we are compliant with whatever this big group wants. Now we're also working to have certification to make also this process easier. You know, there's plenty of things you have to be careful, which is interesting. Now we have a whole process to make sure there's no private information in documents that we use for training, no private information leaks out, even though for us, because we're pure extraction, like it's impossible that something leaks from the training data. You know, so often these laws, they are thought for the most common applications, which are, you know, chat-based and so on. And us, we are extraction, we're like, okay, we're going to comply, but there's definitely no issue there. So it tends to be easier, I think, than for other companies on that point.
I guess there is another question.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I'll be happy to talk after.
Yes.
About asynchronous agents in production and their failures and fixes. Here is Meryem, Arik.
Is this what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know what that is. Oh, that's my Claude code. Right. Can you all see that? I think we can. Hello, everyone. So, hands up if you've heard of Maltbot or OpenClaw or Clawbot. Okay, keep your hands up if you've actually played with it. Interesting, not that many. Probably some security conscious people here. So I'll give you the TLDR of what Maltbot is, and it's blown up my both Twitter and LinkedIn over the last few weeks. It's an open source project that has now renamed itself 3 times. It started off as Maltbot and then was OpenBot and now, no, OpenClaw, and is now, no, I don't know, I can't remember all the names. I think it's now OpenClaw. And essentially what this is it's the first example of personalized async agents. They run for essentially in the background. I can WhatsApp it on my phone and ask it to do something for me. I can ask it to reply to an email on my behalf, and it just runs off in the background and kind of does what it wants. To the extent where it's even started its own social media, I can't remember the name of that either, Maltbook, where these agents in the background talk to each other. It's all very, very weird.
So I'm going to come back to the Maltbot concept in my talk, but first, this is about me. ChatGPT generated that today. I used to be a physicist. I'm now the CEO of Doubleword. That's my LinkedIn if you want to say hi. I'll give everyone a second to scan the well, not everyone. There's just a couple people. Maybe everyone else is already connected to me. So I'm in inference. I've been in inference from the days of BERT and YOLO, like our friend was talking about before, old school, well, not actually that old school. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about inference. Inference is a game of trade-offs. You have this triangle of low latency, low cost, or high quality inference. And you can only ever have 2 out of the 3. You can decide to trade off cost, have really expensive inference. So for example, Anthropic's, most models would fall into that category, where you can get low latency, high model quality, but you do suffer with cost. You can make a different trade-off, which is against model quality. You can deploy a small model, and then you get something that's low latency and cheap. And then, or you can have a situation that is both low cost and high model quality, but you sacrifice on latency. So an example of this is like batched endpoints. I think a rare exception to this might be our friend that spoke earlier with specialized models. If you have specialized small models, you can actually get all 3, but I'm talking about in the generics of LLMs. I'm not paid by him, but maybe I should be. You can buy me a drink afterwards. And so this particular mode of sacrificing your latency but getting really low cost, high quality tokens is actually the kind of inference that I'm most interested in. You can plot all the inference providers in the world broadly onto a graph like this. You can have low latency expensive tokens provided by people like Cerebras. You can have high latency but very low cost tokens provided by someone like us. We're a batched inference company. So going back to Maltbot, what does any of this have to do with Maltbot? Well, one of the biggest things that people are complaining about with Maltbot is how expensive it is to run. You can very, very easily run into spending hundreds of dollars worth of tokens, potentially even thousands of dollars, because it's doing so much inference work, essentially purely in the background. So I got inspired to talk about this based on something that a customer sent to me. And they sent to me this, which is something that they had given their Maltbot to try and reduce the costs. They'd essentially told the Maltbot to delegate tasks based on the most appropriate model for the use case. And this is something that you can use either for your Maltbot or in just production applications in general, using the right model for the task. So what they had decided to do is they had said to their Maltbot for large-scale data processing, any task that can wait, an hour or 24 hours, or late night tasks, they should use a low-cost inference provider. So not sacrifice on the quality, but sacrifice on that latency. And for real-time requests, for challenging tasks, they should use Claude 4.5 for really, really hard tasks. And maybe for like really simple real-time tasks like routing, they could use a small real-time model like a Quen 30 billion. And in the next version of this, they're going to have a little bit here that says, and for extraction tasks, you use NuMind, blah, blah, blah. But for now, this is what they have. And so they're essentially picking the right tool for the task, which is really, really nice. If you're more of a visual person than a code person, you could also think of it like this. It's not perfect, ChatGPT made it. You have your task coming in, and your agent, your async agent that's running in the background can say, what kind of task is this? Am I, for example, trying to do a bunch of, data extraction, or am I trying to do a bunch of data processing? I might use the Doubleword batched API. Am I trying to do very real-time work? Then I might go to OpenRouter and pick whichever model is right for my task and my use case. Now, that is kind of the key insight. Key insight is this. So that's the TLDR. I now have to do the mandatory promotion, but it won't be boring, hopefully. So what we do at Doubleword, hands up if you've been to Costco. Oh my God, you were so excited. That's really funny. So Costco was like my favorite place on earth as a child. If you don't know what Costco is, it's essentially like a warehouse store where they sell everything in bulk, and they also sell hot dogs at the end. And it's very, very cheap. It's like super, super cheap shop, but you can't buy anything in less than like a pack of 12. You can kind of think of Doubleword as like the Costco, but for inference. Yeah, that's why I've got my hat. This is our real logo, but I made this if you're into Costco. Well, we sell tokens, like all other inference providers sell tokens, but our USP is we sell them in bulk, and as a result, we can sell them for much, much, much cheaper. Like 99% cheaper than Anthropic for the same quality model. So, use cases of when this is really helpful. If you have any of these, you should come talk to me. Data processing, data generation, async agents, like the background tasks that your Claude bot might be doing. Model evals, data labeling, and new search methods. This is a link to a new search method that our CTO wrote up that you can use batch endpoints for. It's a cool idea that replaces using embedding models with essentially rank search. So, other things that make us different, we're very cheap, we're just built for batch inference, so we have really good, okay, apparently the QR code is broken, but hopefully the next QR code is not broken. We have a 1 hour and 24-hour SLA, so you don't have to just wait the 24 hours that all other providers make you wait. You can set something off before you go to lunch and come back, and we stream responses as well. Now, please tell me this QR code works. So you should scan this QR code, because this actually allows you to sign up. And because you are here in a real life meetup, we give you free credits as well. And we give you, I don't know, $10 or $20 worth of free credits. And if you can spend $10 of credits within a week, I will buy you a beer. We have a friend, my friend here, who actually used the service, and you signed up 2 weeks ago. Have you spent your $10? No. He's nowhere close to spending his $10, and that's because it's so cheap. So you can sign up and make our GPUs do some work. That's it. Oh, that didn't work either. Okay, so everyone is going to pull out their phone and type in app.doubleword.ai. God. In live demos, you're going to type in this. Word. And this is actually really funny, because the reason this QR code doesn't work is because I'm too cheap to pay for the pay plan for the QR code generator. And I use all of the money that I saved there to give you guys cheaper tokens. I'm like the Michael O'Leary of inference.
You can just generate it in the Canva.
Can you?
Or directly in Chrome.
Yeah.
Wait. Ooh, okay, so someone's going to come up and talk to me about how to generate free QR codes. But if you sign up there, we'll give you a bunch of free tokens. Did that work? Okay, thank you. My friend in the polo neck is helping me out. Perfect. Well, I think that's all I've got to say. Pick the right use case, the right tool for the task, and sometimes the right tool is slow but cheap and in volume, and if it is, you can come speak to us. Bye. I was told I'm not allowed questions, but you can come talk to me later if you want.
Actually, we have time for questions. Yeah, actually we have time, and we can have a few questions.
Hello. You're going to teach me how to generate a QR code for free later.
Maybe in the overview. When you talk about streamed responses,
yes.
is that like a particular format, or just like JSON blobs, or usually in the terminal? Like how are you outputting those streamed responses?
So essentially, as soon as you submit the batch, we automatically create the file, your output file, and you can download that file. We populate that file as we go. So what most batch providers do is you send a request, and at some point within the 24 hours, they maybe do your thing, and often they don't, and then they just give you the money back. What we do is we create the file as soon as it starts, and we start populating it as soon as it starts processing. And you can download that file halfway through, 3/4 of the way through. A lot of our customers who do really big batches like to do that, to essentially start working on the results.
Because sometimes what happens, and I think some people might relate when you use cursors, like agentic mode, like it keeps running in the background, it consumes so many credits, it doesn't give you the response, and then like mid something, like if your battery dies out, or like, you're suddenly disconnected of the internet, your entire credits go, your output goes, and then you have to start again and again, and it gets costly, and we can't afford anything in this economy. But yeah,
I know.
So,
Yeah, I can't even afford QR codes. Yeah, so it's like, it's essentially to solve problems like that. Also, we save the responses on our end as well, but you can poll and kind of start working on responses as they go. Another fun thing that we found that our customers are using the platform for that we didn't expect is, okay, this is not going to work. Is it going to work? No, okay, maybe not. Is we created something called Auto Batcher. This is an open source project that you can use with, sorry, I was just Googling you before. I was trying to make sure I got the messaging right. I have literally no shame. I was just trying to get the messaging right. We created this little package called Auto Batcher. I'm just checking all my other tabs are fine. I think we're okay. Auto Batcher is essentially a drop-in OpenAI replacement, and so you can send your real-time request to this, and it will do the batching for you, so you don't have to change anything with your API. So if you use a real-time API, you can use this. And what we found is a lot of customers are using this, and essentially they're using the batched API like a real-time API. It's really strange to watch. So that we get requests or batches of like 5 requests, and they just send like 5 requests like every second. And what that means is you can kind of also use that for it to be like asynchronous but fit into your synchronous flows, which is cool. You can try that. Hello. You look like you have a question, but your hand's not up. So not to pressure you.
I build with AI, I'm a coder, right? So I'm seeing like the length of tasks that I delegate to my coding agent increase over the past year from like 1 minute to now hours. So how do you think about that? Are we gonna like dispatch our coding tasks into kind of these async batch APIs and run them overnight or whenever tokens are cheapest?
It kind of makes sense to do that, right? Because, so you've said, well, maybe a year ago, you were just using the auto-completion function. It needed to be super, super low latency. But now we're at the stage where, when I use Claude Code, it runs for like 2 hours before I come back to it. The models are going to be good enough that it'll be running for 2 days or 3 days or 4 days or whatever it is. And at that point, you don't really care about the inter-token latency. The thing you care about is your global throughput and also the cost. And so I do think we're going to see more and more people moving to specialist high throughput APIs like ours and away from really, really low latency APIs. I think it's a big misconception that we've seen in the field, my hot take, is that the growth of inference means we're going to see more and more low latency inference, and I think that's wrong. I think we're going to see higher throughput inference, because as AI is getting better, the human interaction matters less and less, which is kind of scary, but let's gloss over that for a second. I don't need to, for example, press tab every time it does an inference. I can treat it almost like a second colleague, and then kind of goes and does its thing and comes back.
It doesn't need to interact with me, but it does need to interact with my...
With your tools? Great question. So we have full tool support, and currently our customers are using the 1 hour SLA for things that have like agentic loops and need tools. And because it's all streamed, actually, the 1 hour SLA actually acts more like an 8-minute SLA or a 10-minute SLA, because of the way we do scaling. Something we are looking at building in is figuring out how to give like an entire agentic loop SLA, which is like the next thing. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. The idea would be probably something like you attach some kind of trace to your request, and so when it comes back from the tool, it can like skip the queue and go up. But for now, people are using the 1 hour SLA for that, but we are working on that exactly. Hi. I won't be offended if you do need to leave. I know I'm running over, so.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a general question.
General question.
I was, just in the radio, and they were saying that RAM prices, so RAM as in chip memory and GPU prices are all going up. So what do you think is going to happen over the next few years in terms of inference costs and how people might react to that?
Inference costs are going to continue going down really, really dramatically. So inference costs I remember back in our day, my friend, I've actually never met this man before, but back in our day, I remember when I was like, it's so expensive running a BERT, like they're just so expensive, blah, blah, blah. And like now inference costs have just gone down, probably like 10x every single year that we've been working in inference. They will continue to go out. Every single chip generation that's coming out is like an order of magnitude better than the last, and we still have the last. And when we talk about AI bubble, the AI bubble is largely data center construction. And so we're just getting more and more and more capacity on the line. And from a software layer, we are improving how efficiently we can, produce tokens. Like our inference software runtime layer is probably 100 times more efficient than it was 2 years ago, and we're going to continue seeing that. Now that's going to be balanced with the increase in demand that we're going to see, but I think there's just so much money in this space that we are just going to continue finding ways to make these things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. A cool thing that we've noticed is we dropped the price of our biggest model 2 weeks ago. And what's really, really interesting is when we dropped the price, we actually made more money from dropping the price. Because what we found is that as you drop token price, people just use more tokens. It's kind of weird. It's great. It's a great business.
It's psychology.
It's like what?
Things don't say you end up buying more.
Yeah, exactly.
More money, like Costco too.
Like Costco, you go to Costco and you're like, obviously I need 12 packs of Marmite. I never would have bought that normally, but you end up with it. And that's what we found as well. So inference costs will go down, but people will spend more on inference, is my guess. Hi.
So I'm not sure, so how you, what you do. So we just send you the requests for inference and you batch it at your end. The model is still hosted wherever it is.
We host the model.
Oh, you host the model too?
We host, and the reason we're able to make it so cheap is because we've optimized every single layer of the stack. So hardware, runtime, orchestration, every layer of the stack to focus on being low cost rather than low latency.
So, because what I was going to ask was, what stops the LLM providers to do the batching at their end? Like, they can have, different models, for poor people, as OpenAI loves to say.
For poor people.
For poor people, it's we'll batch your request and run at whatever time. And for the rich people, okay, it's another model. So can that be done?
So OpenAI does have a batched API, and if you have a use case where you're happy to wait 24 hours and you don't want to bother about changing models, you should use the OpenAI batched API. There are a couple differences. Firstly, their infrastructure is built to be low latency. So they use their batched API to essentially fill in the gaps of when they have spare compute. And so it's not by design cheaper, they're just essentially using over leftovers. Also, we think there's a lot of benefit from building a batched first experience. For example, things like 1 hour SLAs, for example, things like tool calling, how do you enable that within it? How do you enable things like streaming? We're building in direct S3 connectors and BigQuery connectors, so if your data's stored there, there's a lot of DevX work to be done around building a better batch. For most other model providers, it's kind of like a leftover.
So we get a luxury experience at low cost from you.
People love, you love going to Costco.
I know Costco, it's my Disney bag.
It is. As in, people love going to Costco, and yeah, people like using our platform. Yeah, I'm waiting for the cease and desist for this, but it hasn't come yet. Cool. Thank you so much.
Just a quick announcement. We will be having our upcoming events at 17th March and 17th April. The next one will be New Speak House, and the second is Brain Station. And also at 13th May, AI Signals and Women in Data events will be here. at Sivo Tech Junction. By the way, of course we will go to a pub after our events. Just super close, 3 minutes walk, a pub called Angel London. That's it. Yeah. I guess we have some time, but we need to be leaving the venue by 9 o'clock. Thank you, and have a nice evening.